Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what's happening. A stunning turn of events in the death of a child.
He allegedly murdered Melina and left her body in a remote area.
A Montreal father charged with second-degree murder.
Emotionally, it's very hard because there's a lot of uncertainty.
Bleeding millions, the crushing cost of tariffs on this auto giant.
Didn't think they'd be where they are at this time of the year.
Plus, the Blue Jays up to bat, hoping to beat a record-breaking winning streak.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
A horrible turn of events after a father's call to police about the alleged abduction of his daughter. The Montreal man is now facing charges of second-degree murder. The little girl was found dead in upstate New York this weekend after the pair traveled there for a vacation. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin on what we've learned about the 9-year-old and her father. Geneviève.
Yes, and in New York State Police allege a father fabricated the story of the abduction of his daughter in a case they say is heartbreaking and difficult. Luciano Fratolin appeared in court in New York State, charged in the murder of his young daughter, but also of concealing her remains. This after a massive search for the 9-year-old that ended yesterday with the discovery of Melina Fratolin's body in a shallow pond.
He fabricated the initial report of the abduction.
Police laid out what they say is the timeline of the young girl's last days. On July 11th, Melina and her father crossed legally into the United States for a planned vacation. They visited spots in Connecticut and traveled to New York City together. Police say that Melina's parents are estranged, that her mother in Montreal has custody.
She had no concerns for her daughter's safety while she was with him. She knew that he was taking her on this trip.
On July 19th, father and daughter were seen on surveillance video in Saratoga Springs, New York. An hour later, at about 6:30 p.m., Melina spoke to her mother by phone, telling her she was en route back home. At 10 p.m., New York police say a call comes in to 911.
The 9-year-old daughter was possibly abducted in a white van.
Authorities triggered an Amber Alert. The next day, law enforcement officers found a body. This an hour's drive from Lake George in a pond in Ticonderoga, New York. Fratolin is an entrepreneur who, according to a company website, holds Italian and Ethiopian citizenship and founded a coffee business. On that site, he describes his daughter as the light of his life and his inspiration. Federico Sanchez first met Fratolin at a Montreal coffee shop years ago. They chatted a few times over the years about life and family.
All I can tell you is that it would be a massive surprise to find out that he were guilty of such a thing.
The father has pleaded not guilty, and he will be back in court on Friday. Sandy.
Geneviève Beauchemin. A decades-old cold case possibly solved after a Jeep was pulled out of a river near Montreal, found by divers with an international nonprofit group that searches rivers for missing cars.
We're pretty sure that the vehicle that is at the bottom of the river is linked to the 1988 missing investigation from Laval.
Police confirm human remains were found inside the Jeep, believed to belong to Robert Saint-Louis, who went missing on Father's Day in 1988. It's one of about 10 cars discovered in the Mille-Île River in Du-Montagne. Well, police in Costa Rica say that Malcolm Jamal Warner, best known for playing Theo Huxtable on the 80s TV sitcom The Cosby Show, has died in an accidental drowning.
Is this the shirt I paid $30 for? Is this the shirt they're supposed to think is important in Montreal? Ask me the question again.
A generation watched Warner grow up as the only son of the TV family. He was nominated for an Emmy and went on to star or be featured in other projects. He also won a Grammy. Authorities say Warner drowned yesterday while on a family vacation. He was swimming when he was caught up in a high current. Malcolm Jamal Warner was 54 years old. Well, the pain of Donald Trump's tariffs is starting to show. Auto giant Stellantis, the manufacturer of Jeeps, Chrysler, Dodge, and Fiats, took a huge hit, nearly $500 million Canadian. It's a harbinger of what's happening worldwide. CTV's John Valley-Rao looks at how the Stellantis plant in Canada will be affected. John.
Sandy, for auto workers, that tariff hit is adding to anxieties, but what lies ahead for production in this country? Since last year, this Stellantis auto plant in Brampton, Ontario, has been shut down for retooling that was paused back in February and is yet to resume. And now, with word of the company's financial losses, in part related to tariffs, the workers are understandably worried.
Emotionally, it's very hard because there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, we got 3,000 members in that Brampton assembly plant, 1,000+ members that supply that plant and the parts supplier base.
Stellantis, which is known for brands like Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, and Fiat, reporting that the U.S. president's auto tariffs have so far cost the company $480 million Canadian, as it cut vehicle shipments and some production. And the chief financial officer says the full-year tariff impact could be as much as $2.4 billion.
It won't help them, that's for sure. And Stellantis is already in a decent spot of trouble. They've run into all kinds of issues, particularly in the North American market.
The company has been struggling with slow sales and restructuring costs, and a new CEO was brought in 2 months ago after the previous one resigned under pressure. At Stellantis' Windsor, Ontario plant, operations were shut down for several weeks earlier this year, and workers were supposed to return to the Brampton plant by the end of this year, but the retooling remains on hold. Still, Stellantis continues to say it does not change our previously announced investment plans for Brampton.
A world with tariffs is unacceptable for us. A world with tariffs puts our plant in a vulnerable position, even more so than it is now. And not only for our plant, but all of Southern Ontario and the whole auto industry.
And despite that hefty tariff cost, the union rep remains confident the Brampton plant will make vehicles again, although when is not clear. Sandy.
Okay, John, thank you. Canada's premiers and territorial leaders are in Ontario cottage country for the next 3 days talking tariffs, trade and teamwork. They were joined by Indigenous leaders today and tomorrow, the Prime Minister. CTV's Rachel Aiello is in Huntsville as time runs out to finalize an August 1st deal. Rachel.
Sandy, the premiers of all 13 provinces and territories descended on this Muskoka resort today with one main thing on their minds: building up the Canadian economy.
Well, first of all, I want to welcome everyone.
Premiers today kicked off the annual Summer Council of the Federation meeting at a critical time for the country.
Right now, our economy in all Canada suffers because of the uncertainty.
Facing intensifying tariff pressure from the U.S. and a looming deadline to reach a new trade deal, premiers have come to cottage country to work together to find ways to drive Canadian prosperity.
How are you feeling, Premier? I'm feeling fantastic.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is hosting the 3-day meeting and started it off calling for a revived Buy Canadian push in every province and territory.
Start buying Canadian-made everything. We are an economic powerhouse, and we don't have to take a backseat to anyone.
Beyond buying local, premiers say Canada needs to build. And so today, they met with Indigenous leaders to talk about moving major new nation-building energy and infrastructure projects forward, an effort to find a way to get to a yes faster, while still ensuring First Nations leaders are consulted.
It's time now in 2025 that First Nations are at the table and that we have a bigger seat in this country.
Provincial and territorial leaders are also aiming to advance internal trade pacts while here, carrying on with work they've been doing this year to break down domestic barriers and find new markets.
These are all steps. They're steps in the right direction.
Tonight, premiers will be having dinner at Ford's nearby family cottage, a private planning session ahead of tomorrow's big meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Sandy?
Rachel Aiello. Now, the premiers weren't the only politicians who met today to talk tariffs and the trade war. A group of U.S. senators flew to Ottawa to address the ongoing threats with the Prime Minister. CTV senior political correspondent Mike Licatour helps us understand what they hope to accomplish. Mike.
Well, Sandy, the group of bipartisan senators say they're here to build bridges, not throw wrenches, as Canada and the U.S. attempt to hammer out a trade agreement. All of them are opposed to the looming 35% tariffs on a number of Canadian goods.
Looking forward to it.
There was an air of positivity as the 4 American senators went into the meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and they felt progress was made 45 minutes later and in another meeting with Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand.
She says we have a framework within that we wish to operate. We have the frame, we need to make it work.
The senators said they discussed contentious issues like the digital services tax, which Canada has paused, and the decades-long dispute over Canadian softwood lumber exports.
I think we now have a clear idea of how to proceed, and that's to build around some sort of quota arrangement. And the Prime Minister said he was open to that.
How'd it go?
It was good.
Good meeting?
It was good. It's a very good meeting. Thank you very much.
Carney was tight-lipped at the conclusion of the meeting, but the minister in charge of trade with the U.S. was upbeat ahead of his meeting with that same group of senators.
Do you think we're going to get a deal with the United States?
Hope so.
Can we get a deal that doesn't include tariffs on them?
We're not going to discuss all this stuff.
Now, asked if they believe a tariff-free deal is possible, Senator Murkowski said that's up to negotiators.
We all want to get to August 1st and beyond with a resolve that works for Canada and works for the United States.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that deadline and the threat of a 35% surtax will focus all trading partners.
I would think that a higher tariff level will put more pressure on those countries to come with better agreements.
And Canada has just 10 days to come up with an agreement or face those punishing tariffs. Sandy?
Mike Lickature. Thanks, Mike. Well, Donald Trump, meantime, is struggling to get past a growing scandal as he marks 6 months in the Oval Office. Trump is trying to shift the blame as lawmakers demand more disclosure of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, today, the New York Times is also reporting that the U.S. president might appear in the convicted sex offender's files after an accuser says she told FBI twice about an encounter with Trump. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon is back in the chair today. Joy, it looks like even members of Donald Trump's own MAGA base are turning against him. So how's that going over?
Sandy, the Jeffrey Epstein story just won't go away. The president should be celebrating those political wins after 6 months in office. Instead, Donald Trump is on the defensive. He spent the weekend on Truth Social, attacking, distracting, and trying to blame Democrats, even posting phony AI photos of Barack Obama behind bars, trying to change the national conversation. Now, there are enough Republicans right now joining Democrats to force a vote demanding the release of all the Epstein files related to the convicted sex offender, including his so-called client list. Here's the Democratic House Leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffrey Epstein was a friend of Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein was detained during the Trump administration. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide during the Trump administration. What are they hiding from the American people? Release the files.
Okay, so Joy, what did the White House have to say about all of this today?
Well, the president did order the Justice Department to release the grand jury transcripts related to Epstein, but it might require a judge's approval. It could take time, and when, and if it's released, it could be redacted or watered down. All of this and the drip, drip, drip of reporting has angered the president. Here's his press secretary.
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about that.
You know, Sandy, the president is in a tough spot. He wants his followers to move on, but they don't seem to be. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Joy Malbon. Well, a close call in the skies over North Dakota forced a Delta flight to make a quick dodge to avoid a mid-air collision with a B-52 bomber.
Looked over and saw the airplane that was kind of coming on a converging course with us. Sorry about the aggressive maneuver. It caught me by surprise. This is not normal at all.
And that's the pilot of the Delta flight telling his passengers that he didn't get a heads up about a military aircraft flying in the area. One passenger says she noticed when the Delta moved suddenly.
All of a sudden, we just kind of jerk really hard to the right. He just kept taking more turns and more turns, and he gets on the announcement and says, like, I'm sorry, everybody. I'll explain everything once we've landed safely.
Well, it's still not clear how close the two planes came to each other. Of course, the Air Force is investigating. Coming up after the break, crisis in Atlantic Canada.
My whole family loved him dearly.
What's driving fentanyl deaths to an all-time high? A drop in wind and an increase in humidity are credited with slowing the growth of a wildfire on the northeast coast of Newfoundland. An evacuation order from Musgrave Harbour remains in effect as the fire burns about 2 kilometers from the town. Crews are using water bombers and helicopters to fight the flames. Well, there's an out-of-control situation happening with Canada's opioid crisis. More than 7,000 people overdosing and dying just last year, most from fentanyl. Ottawa wants to help ease the emergency with the focus today on Atlantic Canada. CTV's Sarah Plowman now on the nearly $3 million the government will spend. Sarah, tell us more.
Sandy, more than $500,000 of these dollars will go to an outreach van here in Fredericton that drives around at night to make sure people are safe. Today, I got a glimpse of what they do.
I don't know if it's for my brother, but I'm going to say it is.
Outside the community kitchen, Fredericton City Councillor Cassandra LeBlanc runs is a reminder of her brother Brody, who died just 33.
My brother didn't die of a fentanyl overdose, but we believe that he was taking fentanyl at the time and he actually froze to death.
A year and a half later, every walk into work sparks memory of him.
He had his issues and his struggles, but I loved him dearly. My whole family loved him dearly. And I think there's a lot of Brodies out there.
Last year in Canada, about 20 people died each day of an opioid overdose. Fewer than the year before, but still a crisis. In New Brunswick, the opioid deaths involving fentanyl specifically reached an all-time high. In a bid to support those on the front lines, Ottawa is spending nearly $3 million on 4 programs in Atlantic Canada.
Because this is a national crisis, and we are talking about people.
In Fredericton, more than $500,000 of those federal dollars will pay for this team's work. They patrol at night to do wellness checks.
Just to be able to get them what they need. Of course, like we said, naloxone's a big part of it.
They're often called in by bylaw officers to assist. Their presence can free up emergency services.
I think it's making a huge difference. I've had great conversations with clients who are very appreciative of the service.
A service LeBlanc calls a great start.
Having people in place overnight might have saved my brother and will save other people.
LeBlanc says more also needs to be done, especially around housing and getting more people housed, noting that if people are to overcome addiction, support and stability helps. Sandy.
All right, CTV Sarah Plowman. Still ahead, rising hate. Pushback in PEI after pride flags are targeted. Dramatic video has surfaced of a chaotic rescue after a car fell off a ferry near Laval, Quebec. Now, the Tesla only made it halfway onto the dock when one of the ferry's mooring lines detached. Seconds later, the car was pulled away by the current. The 67-year-old driver managed to escape, but was unable to reach shore until a ferry employee jumped into the water to help. He was treated in hospital for shock. The car is a write-off. Well, just 4 days until Friday's Pride Festival in PEI, and an incident caught on camera of a man tearing down a store's rainbow flags has advocates warning of a growing problem right across the country. CTV's Maria Saru now on the incident and what the community is saying about it. Maria.
Sandy, the store owner, says it's not the first time her pride flags have been targeted. And for Islanders, it's proof that hate can still hit close to home. He's walking down the street Saturday night when the pride flags outside a Charlottetown shop catch his attention. The man rips them off, making sure none are missed, then throws them on the street.
Hate still very much exists, and I think a lot of us Islanders live with rose-colored glasses on, thinking that it doesn't, but those who know, and this is proof.
Store owner Tiffany McPhee's security camera captured the whole incident. She says at first it was a little funny, a temper tantrum on tape, but became more disturbing. She filed a police report and made a donation to Peers Alliance, a PEI organization which supports LGBTQ2S+ communities.
It's another act of meeting hate with love, and that's what we do here. We need to keep doing the work.
It's part of a wider wave that queer Islanders are worried about, says Peer Alliance's executive director.
For a while, people have been feeling more and more fear, and something like this is just sort of evidence that, Prince Edward Island is not immune to this trend that we're seeing.
The newest numbers from Statistics Canada show hate crimes targeting sexual orientation increased by 69% in 2023. And this year, similar scenes played out across the country. In Newfoundland, perpetrators defaced a rainbow crosswalk. In Nova Scotia, RCMP arrested a woman accused of vandalizing a home's pride flags. And in British Columbia, a flag raising was postponed after someone cut the ropes. As tensions flare in school board meetings and provincial policy debates, national experts warn a disturbing pattern repeats every Pride season.
Folks who are inclined to discriminate against LGBTI people are a lot more organized than they've ever been.
PEI's Pride Festival starts Friday. Local advocates aren't anticipating hate or ruling it out, reminding folks that if conflict comes up, not to fight, instead to call security and form a physical barrier to protect those at risk. Sandy.
Maria, thank you. After the break, the Blue Jays flying high, taking a swing at a 40-year-old benchmark after a clean sweep. Excitement is building as the Toronto Blue Jays prepare to take on the storied New York Yankees with the goal of blasting past a 40-year-old milestone. CTV's Rahim Ladani is at the Rogers Centre in Toronto, where hope is riding high with fans. Hi, Rahim.
Sandy, when the Jays are playing meaningful baseball late into July, the excitement in the city, it's infectious. There are a lot of people wearing Jays gear right now. We've seen people throwing around the baseball outside the stadium, and everyone is here because they want to witness history tonight. The Jays have a chance to win 11 straight home games, something that hasn't been done since 1985. In order for the Jays to do that, they'll have to get past the New York Yankees, which is quite fitting because this home winning streak first started for the Jays back on June 30th when they swept the series against the New York Yankees. They then went on to sweep the LA Angels, followed by the San Francisco Giants. Well, starting tonight, the Yankees are back in town for a pivotal 3-game series, and we've been speaking with Jays and Yankees fans about how they're feeling about this team. Take a listen.
I'm pretty excited about this team. Didn't think they'd be where they are at this time of the year.
A small town down east, it's amazing, just amazing to walk in for the first time. I walked in and I was expecting it to be so huge, but it's a very just personal experience.
I honestly thought we were coming here for a blowout. Disappointed at the situation, but we're coming back.
In terms of the standings, the Jays currently sit atop of the American League East, 3 games ahead of the Yankees. The Yankees are in second place. There's a 3-game series happening now, and so that could all change with plenty of baseball still left to play. Sandy.
Fingers crossed, Rahim. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.